Disney World has only closed 8 times for a hurricane, and this is one of those times. We're here to figure out what Disney does and how you can handle it if it impacts your trip. Disney World has been impacted by hurricanes multiple times throughout the years, so we are here today to show you if your trip is about to start, if you are on your trip, or if this is the end of your trip, what Disney does to handle it and how they're going to take care of you and how you can reschedule your trip if you need to. It is September 27th, 2022, and it is the night before Hurricane Ian is supposed to land in Florida. And so we have come over to Epcot to see how Disney is preparing for this hurricane and how that's going to impact your vacation and what happens when you're in the parks as the weather starts to roll in. Hurricane season does last from June 1st until November 30th, so that's a big chunk of window that something like this could impact your trip.
If you haven't left for your trip yet, pay close attention to weather updates and stay up to date on Disney World's cancellation policy information. If a hurricane warning is issued by the National Hurricane Center for the Orlando area or for your place of residence within 7 days of your scheduled arrival date, you can call in advance to reschedule or even cancel your Walt Disney Travel Company Disney Resort hotel package. And most room-only reservations that were booked directly with Disney can be canceled or changed without any cancellation or change fees imposed by Disney. Disney will typically also waive cancellation fees or no-show fees for dining reservations or for other prepaid extra experiences. For Hurricane Ian, Disney waived cancellation fees and change fees for all check-ins up to a week after the storm, so there was extended flexibility in this instance. Flights, rental cars, and hotels booked through a third party are not covered under this policy, but they likely will have their own policies that take effect once the storm is on the way. And if you purchase trip insurance, be sure to take a look at that fine print to see exactly what is covered by your policy when it comes to severe weather. It can be a very difficult decision to make, especially with all of the time and money that goes into planning a Disney World vacation. But for your safety and the safety of those who work and live in Disney World, it is the top priority.
Of course, if you are having to cut your trip short, Disney does have a plan. Traditionally, it's case-by-case basis, but for this particular storm, they do have plans in place that if you have unused tickets, the expiration date has been extended through September 30th of 2023. So what happens at Disney when weather like this hits? Well, a few things. The parks may close, transportation may stop, restaurants may close, or they may run limited hours. You will be asked to stay in your room during the duration of the storm and bring in any patio or balcony furniture. They'll communicate via voicemail and sometimes with printed info sheets in your room. Restaurants often offer discounted food. It's not guaranteed, but some of our team has been in Disney in the recent years for past hurricanes and they experienced this firsthand. Characters may show up in the lobbies and there may be fun other activities to help your kiddos or you stay calm. So always check out what Disney is telling you. They will communicate with you via voicemail in your room or sometimes printed sheets in your room. So always keep an eye out for those because Disney will constantly be updating you. And of course, you can also check the Disney website for the latest updates. As you can see, they've taken a lot of the outside carts, outside stands, a lot of the things from the Food and Wine Festival, the booth signs, and they have put them inside for safety reasons so that way nothing rolls away or is dangerous to any of the guests. And as you can see, they've even moved some of the trash cans inside. There is a lot of crowd heading out and packing up for the night because the rain is starting to pick up, and of course a lot of the outdoor kiosks and rides have closed, so people are heading out for the night. So I walked over here in Norway and Frozen is still at 45 minutes, which is not bad for Frozen, but you can tell the crowds are still here and they are in line. As you can see, even though a lot of the crowds are leaving, part of the crowds are choosing to stay to try to get in those last few minutes here before the parks close for the next 2 days. So if that's something you choose to do while you're here, always be aware that the lines might actually spike rather than drop like you think they will. So we have about an hour until the park closes, and right now what we've seen is a lot of cast members are taking things down that might break during the storm. They're tying down anything that they can. A lot of the festival booths, they have been double checking to make sure that, of course, everything is safe and nothing can fly off or break during the storm. I will say we also heard that they are still going to do Harmonious tonight, so maybe if you're here and you know it's the day before they're closing, always make sure to be listening for those announcements because they may still be doing things at night the day before the storm hits. So of course some of the inside stores are still open even though they are preparing to close. Again, the park is still open for about an hour, so things are operating as normally as they can. But you can see a lot of this area is closing, even though people are still hanging around and there are even some dining reservations happening in the back. But
You can really see that the crowds are starting to really clear out. You know, Germany does seem to be pretty empty, but I found one random person. What are you doing here?
Hi.
What are you doing?
I'm on vacation.
You know, there's like severe weather coming.
Not till tomorrow.
That's really true. Are you staying? Okay. Well,
I'm here.
I'm glad you're here. Are
I'm
you?
in Florida.
Of course. Well, you're gonna have to let us know how you're handling the weather here.
Don't worry. Also, this trip was planned way before the hurricane. I didn't come here for the hurricane.
That's fair. I didn't think you would, but hey, you never know. And you're enjoying a good
The
caramel cookie.
Werther's original gingerbread caramel cookie.
There you go.
It's very good.
I'm glad I got to see you.
Yeah, hi. You want to hang out?
Sure.
Okay.
It is 8:05, so just a little bit less than an hour until the park closes, and we have found one single booth that is open. This is the only booth we have seen open, which is kind of surprising, and they do have one of the menus still out, but this is the only one. Everything else has been closed as we're walking around the World Showcase.
Hi, Fry. I'm so glad I found you.
I know. What are the odds?
Disney during a hurricane preparedness moment alone is a little bit nerve-wracking.
It is. Especially if it's your first time.
Yeah.
This is not my first Disney hurricane.
This is my first Disney hurricane.
Well,
So I'm glad I found you. I'd rather be with you than not. So I don't know if you can see that, but they're even taking down the stage for the Eat to the Beat series, which is happening during the Food and Wine Festival. That is still happening, not the show, but the Food and Wine Festival is still going on. But you can see for safety precautions, they are taking down the entire lighting system and the set. The side monitors are gone, and you can just see them working back there.
we got our hurricane food.
You got what you need?
Yeah, where's that?
Perfect. Pro tip, Mitsukoshi has noodles.
That one can be mine.
Another thing I'm noticing as we're walking through the rest of the World Showcase is this pin cart, which is normally open. They have closed it, but they also have saran wrapped it. So obviously they're really hunkering down here. They're making sure everything is as safe as it physically can be. And apparently they're using saran wrap to do it. Kudos to you, Disney. Because because it's Disney World, there's a wedding tonight. Gotta get married before the storm. Woo! Oh, congratulations. That is amazing. Oh, congratulations. Lifelong happiness.
We are only 5 minutes away from the fireworks, and they are still doing it. A lot of things have closed, but Shimmering Sips is still open, so if you need some champagne before the hurricane and the fireworks.
So Brian and I did stay until the end of the night to see what crowds would look like the night before, especially as the park is about to close. And surprisingly enough, there is a little bit of a crowd here at the front. As we were walking around the World Showcase, it wasn't as bad as normal. And of course, this crowd isn't horrible, but it is a little bit surprising considering the weather. So Harmonious just finished for the night. The parks are officially closed, but the shops are still really crowded, which in our experience and our team's experience is a little bit abnormal. Normally we have noticed that people leave the parks when the weather gets pretty bad, but it seems like a lot of people are trying to get in their last minute shopping or their last minute Disney necessities before the parks close for the next 2 days.
It is the end of the night. Of course, Epcot is now closed. That means the only thing left open for the next 2 days in Disney World right now is Disney Springs. Once Disney Springs closes, that means for the next 2 days, Disney is officially closed, and that also includes transportation and a lot of the restaurants here. We do want to really emphasize and remind everyone, including ourselves, that this is incredibly serious. A hurricane is severe weather, and you should plan accordingly. If you're coming anytime between June and November, this is a risk, unfortunately, that we will have to take. Disney, of course, is handling it as seriously as they can. We will be too. And of course, it is rare for this to happen, but Disney does have plans in place if something like this does happen and it impacts your trip.
Hi, don't worry, I'm safe. The storm has passed, but now I'm going to talk about what actually happened during the storm. So I waited out the storm at the Holiday Inn by Disney Springs. There were a lot of other guests here who were either waiting out the storm while they were on vacation or people who actually evacuated from other parts of Florida. The Disney World resorts were 100% completely booked up with people whose flights either got canceled or they were in the middle of their vacation. We checked with cast members ahead of the storm and there was no availability for any rooms, and there was actually a wait list for those who needed to extend their stay. If you are in Disney World during a hurricane, you'll need to figure out your plans and update your plans as early as possible. Although you will need to be flexible and be aware of airport delays, airport closures, flight cancellations, anything like that. And also, if you are driving, you'll need to be aware of the weather conditions and please stay put if the weather is dangerous. Do not go outside, do not drive if it is dangerous. Just stay put, stay where you are. If you're traveling to Disney anytime June through November, hurricanes are a big possibility. That is hurricane season. It happens quite frequently. Hurricanes are very serious, and while the decision is ultimately yours to make, you should evaluate your risk tolerance way before you need to make a decision. You need to have a plan in place just in case, because you never know what could happen, just like what just happened yesterday. Now, while the Orlando area historically has been spared from the worst of many storms, Hurricane Ian did show us that it is still possible to have severe effects in the Disney World area. The Orlando area experienced significant rainfall, wind damage, flooding, and actually there was over a foot of rainfall in Disney World. Around the Disney World area, most power lines are underground, so you will have a lower chance to actually lose power, and actually the Disney hotels specifically have backup generators for this reason. That's why a lot of locals and people in surrounding Orlando areas will come and stay at Disney hotels specifically because they're prepared and they have the backup generators. Now, we did not lose power at the Holiday Inn right next to Disney Springs, but we did experience very strong winds all night long into the early morning. The Orlando International Airport did close at 10:30 a.m. on Wednesday, well ahead of the arrival of the hurricane force winds. So if you're cutting your trip short, I would recommend leaving as soon as possible. Just get out of there before the storm hits so you can make sure that you're safe. If you do get stuck at Disney, you will be well taken care of. However, restaurant availability and regular services may be limited. The Disney resorts will offer activities and things to do to keep you busy. And here at the Holiday Inn, they did have one of the ballrooms open with some board games and some coloring pages. And the hotel kitchen did stay open throughout the storm. It closed probably an hour earlier than normal. Disney hotels will do their best to make sure you have food, make sure you're entertained, and most importantly, make sure you are safe during any park closures. With that being said, be sure to stock up on non-perishable food items, grab some bottled water, and just be prepared to stay put throughout the duration of the storm. Always listen to the direction of cast members, any hotel employees, emergency personnel, etc. Stay up to date on all of the latest information from the local news channels, and of course, make sure all of your devices are charged and ready to go ahead of the storm's arrival. As soon as the storm has passed, Disney will begin the cleanup process, and they will have the parks and the rest of the Disney World Resort open as soon as it is safe.
All right, we're back in Epcot after the storm is over. Disney is doing a phased reopening today with resort guests getting early entry in first before all other park guests.
And park passes were required for us to get back in this morning. Once Disney announced that the parks would be reopening, the reservation system was open if you already had a ticket, but then they quickly closed it back down. We're assuming that's to limit the amount of guests that could get in, but we don't know that for a fact.
We're gonna go find out.
Let's find out. Overall, as we've walked around Disney World, there really hasn't been that much damage. You can see a few things have been impacted. You can see some signs that were obviously thrown around in the wind. But Disney World, for the most part, has turned out okay. It's really mainly the surrounding areas that have seen a lot of impact that has really impacted Kissimmee and Orlando and all the other surrounding areas.
Yes, there was quite a bit of flooding in the surrounding areas that they're still working on right now, even while we're in the parks. The Harmonious barges, they're currently working on them right now. It just flipped over. The whole screen was actually red, and it just flipped over right now. They've got multiple boats out here working on them. We're told they should be ready for the show tonight. But overall, like, you can tell that they're working on a couple things around as we're walking around the parks.
Yep.
And of course, not everything was open right on time today. We noticed that both Remy's and Living with the Land had a delayed opening. They are both now open completely. So just be aware, if you're here after a storm, not everything is going to be open right away. Other things are going to be limited throughout the day. And even at the other parks, there could be other rides or restaurants that will not open right away, maybe have modified offerings.
So as you can see up here on Good Fortune Gifts, the lights are actually back up, and we did see cast members taking them down the other night. Pretty much for us, as we're walking around, everything looks, for the most part, completely back to normal. And if it's not fully back to normal, of course, cast members are working on it, like the barges.
Now, I am technically a Disney Resort guest because I'm staying at the Holiday Inn at Disney Springs. So I did get that early access entry this morning, and I was here as soon as it opened. The wait times were not as long this morning because it was only hotel guests when the park first opened. The crowds are definitely higher now. It is the middle of the day. The park is open to all Disney guests.
So it's about 1:30 right now. The park is open not just to hotel guests at this point, but also all guests that had reservations or tickets for today. As you can see behind me, Frozen is about 60 minutes, so you can tell that those crowds have really picked up and haven't hesitated to come back post-storm.
Virtual queue reservation for Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. We were up at 7 a.m. and they sold out in under a minute. The 1 p.m. drop also sold out in under a minute. And soon after the 1 p.m. drop, all of the lightning lanes sold out for Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. So those are all gone for today.
As we continue our walk around the World Showcase, as you can see, a lot of the booths are completely back open. They're staffed with cast members, which is really surprising considering how severe the storm was just 48 hours ago. One thing we have noticed is that crowds are really in pockets right now. Compared to a normal day, the crowds are not bad at all. But as you can see, once you get back out into the walkways and stuff, you can see that people have really showed up and showed out after the storm. Almost everything is back to normal. You know, we're continuing our walk. We're seeing almost every single food and wine booth back open. The only thing that we're noticing is there are a few carts that are missing. So normally right here in this shady spot, there is a drink cart here in the Italy Pavilion. It's not back out today, but almost everything else is back to normal.
As we're passing by America, we are noticing that the American Gardens Theater stage, everything looks back to normal. Of course, we were here the other night and they were preparing for the hurricane, taking things down. People are on stage right now, looking like they're getting the stage ready. On the screen, it says we've still got entertainment tonight for 3 different times. So everything is back to normal. They're getting it ready for tonight's show.
So of course, Remy's Ratatouille Adventure was one of the things that had a delayed opening this morning, but as you can see, it is open back up. Bonjour!
You look beautiful.
Thank you, so do you. Another thing we've noticed today is that character meet and greets really haven't been impacted. We've seen Mickey and Minnie. Alice, of course, is out today. We saw Belle earlier. And so that's one thing, if you are here after a storm or after the park hours have been impacted, it doesn't seem as if the characters are going to be impacted.
So while we've been walking around the World Showcase, there are of course those pinch points that we always talk about that are super crowded, but there's also little hideaway areas that have not been crowded at all. It feels lower than a normal Epcot day. I am this surprised to see this many people out in the parks today, but I do know that a lot of these people, if not most of them, were cooped up in their hotel for 48 hours and they were ready to get out, ready to do some fun Disney World stuff today.
If you are in Disney World during the hurricane and you'll be in the parks when they reopen, you can likely expect that everything that can be fully operational will be. Just keep in mind that all storms are different and can have different impacts, and while Disney's main goal is to make sure all of their guests have a wonderful experience, hurricanes are extremely serious, and your decision to stay in Disney World during a storm should not be taken lightly.
Obviously, all of Disney World's cast members are still dealing with the aftermath of the hurricane. There are many roads in the area that are still flooded and staffing is definitely limited around the parks. However, the amount of storm cleanup that has already happened and how quickly it's happened is actually very, very impressive.
What these cast members are able to accomplish to make sure that guests still get their full Walt Disney World experience is, I think, amazing. I think it really shows that the cast members are the heart of Walt Disney World. they can't function without them, and the fact that they are experiencing all of this in their personal lives and they still show up and make sure that guests have such an amazing experience. I just think it's special. It's the genuine magic of Disney World, and you wouldn't even know that this happened 2 days ago, and it's because of them. So cast members, we love you.
Yes,
Thank you.
we love cast members. It does not feel like there was a hurricane 48 hours ago, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah,
So,
and it's all thanks to them.
yes, thank you cast members. We
Thanks.
love you.